The world stands at a precipice, its future uncertain and its past echoing loudly in the present. The atmosphere is eerily reminiscent of the Cold War's darkest days, when superpowers eyed each other with suspicion and the threat of conflict loomed over every negotiation. The date is October 8, 2025, yet the political climate feels like a return to the mid-20th century, as if history itself is repeating in a new, more complex form. Tensions between the United States and Russia have reached levels unseen in decades, with both sides bracing for the unknown. Old rivalries, once thought buried, have been reignited by new grievances and modern conflicts, fueled by a rapidly changing world order. The optimism of the post-Soviet era has vanished, replaced by suspicion, open hostility, and a sense of lost opportunity for lasting peace. NATO's eastward expansion after 1991, seen by the West as a security measure, is viewed in Moscow as a betrayal and a direct threat to Russian sovereignty. President Putin frames Russia's actions as a reassertion of its rightful place on the world stage, not as acts of aggression, but as necessary steps to protect national interests. The conflict in Ukraine is now the central stage for this renewed rivalry, a brutal, ongoing manifestation of the struggle for global influence and power. For the West, supporting Ukraine is about defending sovereignty, upholding the rules-based order, and standing against perceived aggression. For Russia, it's an existential fight to secure its borders, preserve its influence, and resist what it sees as encroachment. The world is more interconnected than ever, and warfare now includes cyber attacks, disinformation campaigns, and battles fought in the digital shadows. Understanding these historical roots is crucial to making sense of today's crisis, but so is recognizing the unique dangers of this 21st century confrontation, where technology and old animosities collide. The specter of a new Cold War looms, threatening not just the peace of today, but the stability of generations to come. The balance of power teeters on the edge, as the world holds its breath and the stakes grow higher with every passing hour. Ukraine formally requests American-made Tomahawk cruise missiles, seeking a decisive edge in its struggle for survival and sovereignty. With a range capable of striking Moscow and other strategic targets, these weapons would mark a dramatic escalation, shifting the military calculus in the region. President Trump faces a profound dilemma: support Ukraine with advanced arms and risk inflaming tensions, or hold back and risk emboldening Russia, knowing that either choice could have far-reaching consequences. Putin's response is swift and uncompromising. He warns that supplying Tomahawks would destroy already fragile U.S.-Russia relations and mark a new, dangerous stage of escalation, with the world's attention fixed on every move. The debate in Washington is fierce and deeply divided, with some urging bold action to change Moscow's calculus and deter further aggression, while others warn of catastrophic miscalculation, fearing that a single misstep could trigger a chain reaction. The situation echoes the Cuban Missile Crisis, a perceived threat to core security interests met with the threat of massive retaliation, and the world remembers how close it once came to disaster. This is more than a debate about hardware. It's a test of resolve, diplomacy, and the ability to manage a crisis on the brink. The decision on these missiles could determine whether tensions spiral into a wider conflict, or if cooler heads can prevail. The world watches anxiously, hoping that history won't repeat itself and that this crisis can be resolved before it's too late. Tensions aren't just diplomatic, they're playing out in the skies. Recent months have seen a surge in provocative military encounters, especially near Alaska. Russian spy planes have repeatedly entered the Alaskan Air Defense Identification Zone, prompting U.S. fighter jets to intercept. These calculated maneuvers send a clear message: Russia will challenge U.S. military presence wherever it sees fit. Analysts see this as psychological warfare, testing Western resolve and probing for weakness. Moscow aims to project strength and unpredictability, reinforcing the narrative that the U.S. is hesitant to risk direct confrontation. This high-stakes aerial chess match carries real risks. A single miscalculation could spark a major incident. Each encounter raises the stakes, reminding us that this new Cold War is a tangible military standoff. The cost of a mistake could be catastrophic. The world holds its breath with every close call. Ukraine has become the epicenter of U.S.-Russia rivalry, a global proxy war testing both powers' ambitions. For the U.S., supporting Ukraine is about defending sovereignty and deterring aggression. For Russia, it's about resisting Western encroachment. American aid now includes not just weapons but detailed intelligence on Russian targets, blurring the line between supporter and co-belligerent. Moscow sees this as proof it's fighting the entire West, not just Ukraine. The conflict has revitalized NATO, but also exposed divisions among allies. The longer the war drags on, the greater the risk of escalation beyond Ukraine's borders. For Putin, U.S. involvement confirms his narrative of encirclement and justifies the war's costs. Ukraine is now more than a battlefield. It's a struggle over the future of European security and the global balance of power. The stakes could not be higher. In this conflict, words are wielded as weapons. President Trump's confrontational tone, calling Russia a paper tiger, aims to project American strength and undermine Putin's image. Putin fires back, questioning NATO's effectiveness and sowing doubt among Western allies. This war of words hardens public opinion, fuels nationalism, and makes diplomacy nearly impossible. Each insult locks leaders into confrontational positions, shrinking the space for dialogue. The verbal sparring is more than theater. It deepens distrust and pushes both sides further from peace. The world watches as rhetoric escalates, knowing words can be as dangerous as missiles. The US and Russia are locked in a global chess match, each seeking to maximize influence and reshape the world order. Their rivalry is not just about territory or military might, but about shaping the very rules and norms that govern international relations. Every action, every negotiation, is a move in this high-stakes game. Putin's strategy is revisionist, overturning the post-Cold War settlement and reasserting Russian power through hybrid warfare, cyber attacks, disinformation, and military provocations. Russia leverages new technologies and unconventional tactics to undermine Western unity and project strength far beyond its borders. The US responds with containment and deterrence, strengthening NATO and isolating Russia economically. American policymakers work to reassure allies and demonstrate resolve, deploying troops and resources to vulnerable regions. Sanctions and support for Ukraine are central to this approach, aiming to raise the costs of Russian aggression. Economic pressure is paired with diplomatic efforts and military aid, signaling that the West will not tolerate violations of sovereignty. This contest extends beyond Europe, with both powers vying for influence in the Middle East, Africa, and the Arctic. These regions are new arenas for competition, where energy resources, strategic positions, and alliances are all at stake. Russia courts countries at odds with the West, while the US shores up alliances to counter Russian and Chinese influence. Both sides use diplomacy, economic incentives, and military cooperation to win partners and shape regional dynamics. The outcome of this struggle will shape the global balance of power for decades. The choices made today will echo far into the future, affecting peace, prosperity, and security worldwide. Every move is calculated, every alliance critical. Behind closed doors, strategies are debated and decisions weighed, as both sides seek any advantage. The stakes are nothing less than the rules that will govern the 21st century. In this era of uncertainty, the world watches as the next chapter of global power is written. Beyond the battlefields, a shadow war rages, fought with spies, cyber attacks, and sabotage. Russia excels at hybrid warfare, using drones to surveil supply routes and targeting European infrastructure. These covert operations aim to disrupt Western support for Ukraine and sow chaos without triggering open conflict. The West fights back with counterintelligence, cybersecurity, and intelligence sharing with Ukraine. This invisible front is critical. Each side seeks an edge in a world where war and peace blur. Cyber attacks can cripple hospitals, disinformation can sway elections, and sabotage can halt economies. The sense of vulnerability is constant, eroding trust in institutions. As experts warn, the West is already in a hybrid war with Russia, whether it admits it or not. This low-level conflict is a defining feature of our era. The shadow war is everywhere, and nowhere. Economic sanctions are now a primary weapon in the new Cold War. The US and its allies have imposed sweeping sanctions on Russia, targeting finance, energy, and technology to cripple its war machine. President Trump threatens further economic escalation if Moscow refuses to change course. Russia has proven resilient, rerouting trade and leveraging its energy exports to counter Western pressure. The economic battle is a war of attrition, deepening the divide and accelerating global decoupling. Two economic blocs are emerging, one aligned with the West, the other with Russia and China. This fragmentation threatens global stability, raising inflation and slowing growth. Sanctions are powerful but not a silver bullet. They can backfire and hurt those who impose them. The economic front is long and grueling, with no quick victories. The world economy is being reshaped by this relentless struggle. As of October 2025, U.S.-Russia relations stand at a crossroads. One path leads to escalation, a direct confrontation if advanced weapons are supplied or a military incident occurs. Another path is a grinding new Cold War permanent hostility, arms races, and a divided world. Cooperation on global challenges would become nearly impossible, harming all humanity. A third, more hopeful scenario is managed rivalry de-escalation, renewed communication, and clear red lines to prevent disaster. This would require both sides to recognize the futility of total victory and seek a cold peace. The choices made now will shape the future for decades. Inflammatory rhetoric and brinkmanship push the world toward danger. Only sober, pragmatic statecraft can avert catastrophe. The challenge for today's leaders: heed history's warnings and steer away from the abyss.